Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Tucker. Love your show.
Thank you.
I'm from Chicago, and my husband's actually from Venezuela.
Oh, nice.
And he's right here.
One of the impressive Venezuelans I was talking
up
about.
Here. He's the middle class that fled the country.
Yeah,
we moved to California 3 years ago, so we did not grow up here. And we see the changes. When we moved here, we were like, what's going on here? And we see the socialistic nature and the ideology here. The question we have is, who do you think is orchestrating this? Because we see it in the schools. My 8-year-old came home the other day. He said, Mom, is social justice bad? There's like, the Walnut Creek School District has,
can you imagine?
East Bay have a lot of these propaganda posters in the school district. My 8-year-old is asking me this, and thank God for PragerU and your show, because I'm indoctrinating them to be conservative children.
Good.
But who's orchestrating this progressive, socialistic movement throughout our country? That my husband's always asking me that. It has to be coming from somewhere.
Well,
where's it coming from?
I don't know if I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and of course there are pivotal players in all of this, and you know exactly their names, and there are people who are funding it. But I think that a lot of it is organic. What you're looking at is a very large, well, relatively small, but in terms of the power it wields, a large group of people who have decided that they despise the civilization that made all that they have possible. Now, there's a psychological explanation for this, which I sincerely believe, which I'm not going to bore you with, but I mean, it's sort of like, here's the way to think of it, and this may resonate with some people in the audience. You may have seen families that possess multi-generational wealth, and you may have noticed a certain very recognizable pattern, which is not universal, but it's common enough that you'll know what I'm talking about. The first generation, the people who made it, are sort of hard-nosed, smart, focused. Second generation, that, a little less so. Third generation, honestly not that impressive. Fourth generation, wrapping the Lamborghini around the tree at the club, okay? It's that generation that didn't work for what it has, that takes for granted all the things that made its material comforts possible, that tends to be deeply ashamed of its own wealth, if you know what I'm talking about. You will almost never meet anybody who worked for 25 years to incrementally build a company and then got rich at the end, slagging capitalism. Never. Because that guy earned what he has. But if you live in a world full of inherited wealth, which I do and always have, you will meet a lot of people who are going on about, oh, capitalism. Really? Because you've never practiced it in your life. You're living paying half the tax rate that I pay, because we tax capital at half the rate of labor, as you well know, at my rate. And you're sitting around, you hate yourself because you're a loser who got your money without putting in the required effort, and you're filled with guilt about it. Multiply that times a whole ruling class. That's exactly what you have. So you never meet anybody like who came here. One of the things I really like, I think we should control who comes here for sure. But when you see successful immigrants, you never hear them say anything like that. You never hear them going on about social well, you're married to one. What am I saying? I'm sorry, I don't need to tell you that. Exactly. Because they know how valuable the things that our ancestors built are. That's why they came here, to partake of them. Our justice system, our civil society, our economy. These things didn't arise overnight. People gave their lives to build them. Our freedom of speech. We're the only country in the world with a First Amendment. That's worth a lot. They get it. But people who grew up here and have been bathed in generational affluence are filled with this corrosive, self-hating guilt, and you see it everywhere. So it's not just that George Soros is funding this, though he is. It's that like kindergarten teachers across the country buy into it. And what is the answer? I'll tell you what the answer is. Let's not participate in this. I can tell you, let me put it this way. If you were, of any other group, if your kids went to school and all of a sudden the teacher was telling them like, you're bad, your group is bad, you would go in, if a gay couple showed up at school and the teacher's like, gay couples are terrible. The parents would be like, what? No, I'm not putting up with this. In my kids' schools, overpriced Episcopal dumb schools, the parents sit there while the teachers are like, yeah, everything you stand for is terrible. And we're telling your kids that, and the parents are like, yeah, okay. And by the way, can I have an extra 20 grand on top of tuition, just as a kind of guilt offering? Okay. So this last year, My wife, who's daughter of an Episcopal priest, very moderate person politically, has been driven completely over the edge by what's happening. And she says to me, I always thought my wife's kind of liberal. I've been married 28 years. I never thought of her as conservative. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to use profanity, so I'm not going to say exactly what she said. I'm sick of this crap. I'm not, how much we're giving? 0. Her father's an Episcopal priest. It's an Episcopal school. She's like, nope, I'm not funding this anymore. They hate us. They hate our family. They hate our values. We're opting out. And I'm like, good for you. And by the way, I just can't overstate. I wish you were here so I could point her out to you. You'd be like, that's the last person who would say something like that. But she's like, why would we fund an organization that is teaching our children to hate us and our values? Are we masochists? Are we insane? The number of parents who do that, including my family, I just admitted it, without thinking about it or without feeling like they can opt out is terrifying. I see these parents like, oh, my kid's going to Princeton or whatever. They're all so proud of it. It's like, really? You really send your kid to Princeton? Do you know what they're learning at Princeton? Is it making them better? I mean, this is in the humanities, okay? If you're going to, whatever, Cal to study engineering, God bless you. But if you're going to study, interpretive feminist dance, it's not making your kid better, actually. It's hurting your child, and you're paying for it because you feel like you have no choice. What we need is a growing population of upper-income, well-educated people who say, I've had it. I'm not going to dig my family's grave for you. That's how I feel. I feel like the stakes are really, really high. We lie to ourselves and say they're not high. Oh, it'll be fine. And the last thing I'll say really quick, a mistake that I made is I felt like as a conservative who has a libertarian temperament, I have no desire to control other people, it's just how I'm made, I didn't want to propagandize my kids. And my kids are actually, they've been so driven crazy by liberals that all 4 of them are kind of conservative. Just because I sent them to Episcopal school. So I don't know what that is, but I'm not into it, okay? But I wish I had been more systematic and less ashamed of my own beliefs with my children and sat them down and said, here are the things that we as a family believe. And we're not like everybody else. All the other families in Walnut Creek, they're nice people, but we don't agree with them on certain things, and here's why. I wish I had done that, and we're too ashamed to do that. I can tell you the left does it. Every night at dinner, it's like everyone else is in the Klan except us. I'm serious, and they raise generations of extremists. I don't want extremists in my house, but I want people who understand what our family believes and why we're a little different from everyone else in Walnut Creek or Atherton or wherever you live. There's nothing wrong with that. We should do that. Amen. Ha!
Majority of people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people. The death of Jeffrey Epstein.